Was it always your intention to make your first post MCU project a drama, or did you ever kick around possibly doing a comedy or anything like that?
No, I mean we're just really we're moved by what's in front of us and what stories are make themselves available to us and the things that we're compelled to tell. This was a book we read while we were still working on Endgame, and set in our hometown, which is being ravaged by opioids right now. We have a lot of friends and family who are struggling with their sobriety, others who have died because of opioids. The author, Nico Walker, grew up in a lot of the same areas in the city that we did, worked at the same restaurant that I did 10 years apart. So this was just it was just an important story for us to tell, and it happened to be the next one.
Were there any specific kind of lessons that you were able to apply making Cherry that came from your experience working the MCU?
I'd say the biggest thing we learned from working in the MCU as it applies to Cherry is work with Tom Holland. That would be the number one lesson. Number two, I think would be, we work with a lot of the good people that we were able to collaborate with on the MCU movies. I mean, much of our crew on Cherry did come from our time in the MCU. Not everybody, but a lot of key people. Moving those collaborations forward is very important to us because Joe and I love the process of collaboration. And when you get to work with people year after year, project after project, you start to develop a very sophisticated understanding of one another, both as creatives and as people. And it makes the work better and also makes the work experience better. The work experience has always been very important to Joe and I. We want everybody on the set to be enjoying the work they're doing, having a good time, feeling fulfilled, because we spend so much time together on set. If that environment isn't feeding you on a personal level, the experience could be very draining. So I think that's really what it was, is just keeping these great relationships that we've developed over those films moving forward and finding new forms of expression for all of us.
I have noticed in your body of your filmography of feature films now, between Welcome to Collinwood, Endgame, and now Cherry, heists. What is it that appeals to you guys about heists, and what do you think the key elements are in pulling one off on screen? And also, I guess, just have you guys ever pulled a job? I just feel like that's going to come out one of these days. We're going to.
We haven't yet, but maybe these movies are really, yeah. These movies are just our exploration of how we're actually going to do it. Look, I think that we identify with the underdog. We grew up in Cleveland. We grew up there at a time when there was a lot of social strife and economic strife, unemployment bigger than the Great Depression. Very balkanized city, very diverse city. And I think that what we gravitate towards is genre, because we loved watching it growing up, but also the fact that, what is really the definition of criminality and what defines a criminal? If the institution is corrupt and the individual is not, then, is it really a crime? And I think that's always something we try to explore, is how the individual gets beaten down by the institution. Cherry's no different than Collinwood in that regard, where, these underdogs are fighting back in the only way they know how, and trying to take something for themselves.
Well, I did also want to ask, though, all of your films, you do find light in the darkness, right? I mean, you do have a comedy background, we know that. Why was it important or what was the challenge of trying to find that light in the darkness in this film? Because I feel like you kind of expressed that in the heist scenes with sort of like the bank signage and stuff like that. It's a very, you definitely use a lot of tools in the directorial toolbox to kind of bring humor out, even when you might not be expecting it.
Well, it's a great question. I mean, and I think it goes back to kind of what Joe's saying, in the sense that, we do really have this strong affinity with the underdog, and it comes from a lot of different things. But, when you feel like an outsider, when you feel disadvantaged, you need to turn to things that can sustain you, give you life, give you energy, give you hope. And sometimes you have to find those things where you are. And an easy thing to turn to is humor. because it's available no matter where you are at any time. You don't need any resources for it. So I think that's a large part of it, is like how do we find those little things that sort of help the human spirit sort of keep going, help it feel like there's a chance of prevailing over overwhelming odds, no matter what those odds may be. Even if the fate that you're facing is inescapable, what is something that you can find to sort of transcend the sort of the bleakness of that? And I think that's sort of an essential dynamic in terms of how we structure stories, how we tell stories, how we explore character. It's like, how do you find those things to fortify yourself when you have nothing to turn to?
Well, I thank you both very much for your time today. I wish you the best with pulling off your eventual heist. I've been wearing a wire this whole time, though, so I'm just so you know.
You're on to us. I think you're going to get us.
I know, the eye in the sky is watching. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jim. Take care, man.
I could save time in a bottle. The first thing.
Hey, I'm really happy you're here.
Why is that?
Because I like you.
But they never seen